about 7:30 a.m. right now. I'm standing in Canyonlands National Park, and I'm about to visit all 5 of Utah's national parks in one day.
That's right, I visited all 5 of Utah's national parks in one day. And you might be asking yourself, why would you do this? Well, I was looking at Google Maps one day, right? I looked how far it was from one end to the other, and I was like, that's actually not too bad of a drive. Sure, adding a couple extra hours for stops, but... And so I did it because I could do it. And there's pretty much no other reason than that. So... And surprisingly enough, I actually followed through with this. So, here's how that went. Utah's national parks are nicknamed the Mighty Five because, well, I mean, there's 5 of them. So, east to west, we have Arches, Canyonlands, Capitol Reef, Bryce Canyon, and Zion. And so, I knew for this journey I'd have to start at one end, either Zion or one of the parks near Moab, Canyonlands or Arches. I decided to stay at the Willow Flat Campground in Canyonlands National Park. Well, because it was first come, first serve, and I knew if I stayed in Moab the night before, I could easily snag a spot, which I did. And this was the view I woke up to, so I mean, not a bad spot to camp. Green River Outlook was just a short walk from the campsite, so probably one of the better places I've stayed, honestly. I set off early in the morning just as soon as quiet hours were over and headed off to the next national park. Now, even though my phone camera doesn't really do these parks justice, I'm going to say spoilers for nature in southern Utah, I guess. Now, I should also mention this was part of a larger trip to Utah, so this wasn't the only time I spent in each of these national parks. I did spend a couple other days. I already spent a couple days in Canyonlands. And so I head off to the next national park, Arches. Now, I had actually visited Arches a couple days prior, so I left a couple of stops to visit for today. And thankfully, the line to get into Arches wasn't as long as the previous day, and Arches got a long line. And so today I decided to stop by Park Avenue and go on up to see the window arch, which I had left out the previous days. And with that, I had visited, I'd say 95% of the paved road in Arches at that point, so... Even though it was still early in the day, I had to keep moving. I still had 3 more national parks to visit, and these are the 2 closest together. Now, and then I'll tell you what my ranking is as we go through, just based on what I see each day. Because my list, based on having a full experience in each one, changes a decent amount, I'd say. Now, I'm gonna have to place, just based on today, I'm still going to have to place Arches under Canyonlands. I'm a sucker for sweeping landscape shots, and Canyonlands has that, even though we only saw a couple. I headed on up north to the I-70 and said goodbye to the Moab area. Now and then I fueled up in the town of Green River, Utah, which feels like a real-life Radiator Springs, and I don't mean that in a good way. Now, the next national park on the list was Capitol Reef, located in central southern Utah. After exiting the I-70, this is probably the loneliest part of the journey. I mean, it was empty desert, let me tell you. But there's something about driving through the desert by yourself that can't replicate it anywhere else. Something about the sand and the snow-capped mountains in the background, and you're just alone on the road. Now, thankfully, the way Capitol Reef's main road is set up, you can pass through one end of the park and go out the other, and you don't have to do any backtracking whatsoever like I had to do in Arches. What's interesting about Capitol Reef, there's no toll gate, or at least there wasn't on the way where I went in. So, I just kind of entered the national park and didn't even realize it. Now, Capitol Reef is actually the least visited national park in Utah, and it gets its name from these Capitol Dome-like rock structures in a reef formation. This is what happens when you let sailors name your land formations. And I decided, I should probably get in one stop. I'm just kind of passing through this one for today. I decided to stop by this petroglyph cliff. Ooh, say that 5 times fast. And Capitol Reef is Capitol Reef and the surrounding area is very eclectic, I feel like. It's hard to nail down, the exact theme, but man, I definitely wanted to return to this one. Because it felt like there was so much more to see. Honestly, based on what I've just seen in this day, I think Capitol Reef, I'm gonna have to place it above Arches, but under Canyonlands, I think. You gotta keep on moving. Keep on moving to the next one. I'm sure if you use Google Maps, you'll know that sometimes the route it says is the quickest isn't always the most convenient. And, well, it says this route is the quickest, and I quickly learned that, Yeah, I probably shouldn't have listened to Google on that one. Because I passed by a couple of signs that are pointing to Bryce Canyon using this road. I'm like, huh, I don't know, maybe that's like the traditional way, but now this way's more quicker or something. Yeah, that's the reason. Totally. I mean, in fairness, it is technically quicker by about 20 minutes, but I'd recommend spending that extra 20 minutes considering this is what I was missing out on. And, well, this is what I saw. It's an actual tumbleweed. This was probably the saddest and most boring part. Maybe not the loneliest, but definitely the most boring part of the journey. But hey, now I can say that I've passed through Kusharam, Utah. Cool, I guess. It was just like an hour of scrubs. Maybe if I was from like, I don't know, Kansas or Wisconsin, I'd find this interesting. But, you know, having seen 3 national parks already, I mean... But then all of a sudden we started getting to some more northern looking forest, which was strange. That almost gave off kind of a vibe close to Yellowstone. And I later learned that was because they're all ponderosa pines. And then all of a sudden we're just kind of there at the intersection. Like, Bryce Canyon is a park people talk about. And I was surprised to see so little infrastructure, honestly. Not saying it's a bad thing, I was just surprised. Bryce, I later learned that the other road actually technically passes through Bryce Canyon, so if I wanted to just drive through it, I could have done that, and I would have still visited all 5 in one day. I wish I'd realized that earlier, because instead, Bryce was going to be another backtracking. But I do not regret going into Bryce Canyon this early. Look at that! Bryce Canyon, due to its high elevation, makes it feel like it's at a more northern altitude. You know, the ponderosa pines commonly found more up north, and like the snow on the ground minus the dirt color, you could tell me some of this imagery is from Yellowstone. Like the forest, and there's also just a striking contrast between the forest and the hoodoos, which are these weird little sandstone, not really scope, these weird sandstone formations. And you know, Bryce Canyon is the largest collection of them in the world. I decided to stop by the first overlook, and you know, just to get a taste of Bryce Canyon. Bryce Canyon's pretty crazy, but you know, once again, had to pretty much backtrack, not quite as far as Arches this time, but you know, backtrack and head on over to the last national park, the most visited national park in Utah and in the entire western U.S., Zion. Bryce Canyon, that's at the top of the list now. You know, I saw just a little bit here, but man, that is a crazy view. But right outside Bryce Canyon, there's this thing called the Red Canyon, which was also a nice little forest to drive through and like had some cool rock formations, which I think is interesting, you know, that there's just a lot of cool stuff, you know, just outside national parks, not even within them. Now, as we drive on over there, each of the names in national parks, you know, especially in Utah, you know, they're pretty self-explanatory. You know, Canyonlands has canyons, Arches has arches, Capitol Reef has a reef of capitals, Bryce Canyon, Big Canyon, but what is a Zion, you know? Like, I know it's the promised land or whatever. What is Zion? Like, a promised land, that could be like a tropical paradise, you know? What about these rocks and mountains and cliffs and canyons makes it Zion, you know? Real quick, I should mention that there's like this gas station I stopped in to go to the bathroom in, and there's a map of the Korean Peninsula and the men's bathroom. I didn't take a picture of it because, you know, obvious reasons, but like all the other maps were like of American stuff, but there's just this one of the Korean Peninsula I thought was really strange, and I don't have any evidence of it, but you're just gonna have to believe me, and trust me, it's weird, I don't know why I was there. Anyways... And here we are, 10 hours later, at the gate of Zion. It had been a long journey, for sure. You know, a lot of driving, and I had a moment to reflect here while I was waiting in line for Zion. Like, would I do this again? The answer is yes, but not by myself. My knees hurt. I mean, it's an incredible journey. I would want someone to swap out driving with, I think, to do this much driving in one day again. It's incredible, though, to see the diversity of this rectangle some people drew in the desert. But even so, even without that rectangle, just like the array of landscapes you've seen in one day, it's incredible, I think. And so we head into Zion, the promised land, and wow. This was nice to drive. After driving through Kusharam, this is amazing. Like, this feels like Zion, you know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, that's a Zion. It really captures the essence of that word. Surely more than Illinois. I'm assuming. Maybe I'm missing out there, but Like, this was maybe my favorite part to drive through the whole day. Just these large canyons going through this tunnel, and you'd like peek out and you'd see just like the red rock formation and like all the trees. It's like, whoa, this is something else. And then you go along these switchbacks and you go down and you snake through the canyon. It's quite majestic, honestly. But you know, I had to. It had been a long day, and I had to head on over to my hotel. Also, I wanted to see all of these in daylight, and I'm glad I got to. So I was a little bit less worried about my second hotel being close to Zion, because as long as I got to Zion by sunset, I'd be good, and I did. Zion becomes my new favorite to drive through on this day, going up to the top of the list. So if we review the list, we'll see, you know, Arches was my least favorite. It's still good, though. Still good. You should, you know, if you want to go see Arches, definitely go see it. This is only based on one day. Then Capitol Reef, Canyonlands, Bryce Canyon, and Zion. Now, keep in mind, this list definitely changes when I consider my experiences on the other days. So I head on to my hotel in Hurricane, Utah. Yes, that's how they pronounce it. Not like the English word that already exists, but hurricane? I don't know, man. Also, virgin cactus jelly. What is it? You tell me. Thanks for watching this one, and yeah, why not, do the YouTube stuff, subscribe and like and whatever. And I'll see you the next time I go somewhere. This has been Goshen Man.